Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So, we were studying from the 254th to the 263rd verse of the Vivekachudamani, where we find that Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is instructing the ways by which one can realize the Mahavakya, the great, the Dictum, Tattvamasi, in our own life, and which can lead to one to the spiritual realization. Now, in all these verses, one thing we will find is common, that the last phrase of all this 11 verses, the last phrase is Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani. That you are that Brahman. Think that in your heart, in your mind. Constantly contemplate on that. Now, if this is the instruction, then why so many verses? Now, unless we have an idea that what we are meditating, if you say meditate on Brahman, meditate on Brahman in your heart, then the word Brahman becomes a mere word unless we know what that word signifies. Now, to point, actually we can never define Brahman, because it is not an object, it is the ultimate subject. If I can know the subject becomes an object. The ultimate subject can never be known. So in Vedanta, to have an idea of the subject, they use indicator, the pointer. In Sanskrit, they call it Tatastha Lakshana. Tatastha Lakshana. That suppose there is a river and it is very nearby, it's flowing but it's not visible. Now, to indicate the existence of river to someone, what will I say? The river is very near. He will say, but it's not visible. And then the person says, can you see that tall tree? Yes. Just by the side of the tall tree, the river is flowing. It's not visible from here. But the tree becomes a pointer with the help of which the person can know about the river which is flowing by. So the ultimate subject can never be known. But Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is using this world of duality, what we perceive, as the pointer, to say that behind this perception, because of that all these perceptions are possible, but that being the ultimate subject, it cannot be seen. It is just because of that all this phenomenal existence is possible. And that way he is negating that how all the phenomenal existence has to be transcended to really understand what Brahman is. Now, why he is doing this? Now, in Buddhism, there is a very nice proverb. They say, ego is a disease, but it contains its own cure. Very nice. The ego is a disease. The moment the ego evolves, it is disease. Why it's a disease? This Vedanta, these ideas are wonderful, that ego is a disease. Why it's a disease? Now, when we say that we are diseased, when we find that our consciousness gets localized, we say we are diseased. When our consciousness gets localized. Wow, that when I am healthy, I will find that I am not aware of any particular part of my body. See a small child, It is bubbling with health, with energy, with vitality. It's not aware of any particular part of his body. It is almost unconscious of his body. And when, as we grow older, we develop lot of physical ailments, what's the proof that we are getting ailments? We find our consciousness is now getting localized. How? I say I have a headache. See, for the small child, he was not aware of the body. The entire vitality was expressing through the entire body. It was permeating. And now it is getting localized. I have a headache. As if the entire consciousness gets localized in your head. I have a joint pain, the knee pain. There's a heartache. I have difficulty in breathing. So everywhere you will find that the consciousness is as if getting localized to a particular part of the body, and that's why it is called disease. Your ease has gone. You have become diseased. Dis-ease. The ease is no more there. So in spiritual sense, the moment the ego evolves, we become diseased. Why? The Brahman is beyond the limits of space-time causation. The word Brahma came from Brih Dhatu. That means which is Brihat, which cannot be limited in space-time. It is something Brihat. It permeates everything. The moment, because of ignorance, that Brahman gets associated with the body-mind complex, and that non-local consciousness now becomes localized, being reflected in the body-mind complex. This localized consciousness, which gets reflected in the body-mind complex, to give us the sense of this limited individuality. When I say I, with that the idea is there. I am this body-mind complex. The idea of that non-local awareness has gone. Because of ignorance, the moment that ultimate conscious principle gets associated with the body-mind complex, it gets localized. This localized awareness is termed as ego. Now you will find why it is a disease. Because it has got localized. The awareness which was beyond time-space causation is now finding expression only through this body-mind complex. The moment it happens, all our samskaras starts evolving in the form of raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, as has been spoken of in the Yoga Sutra. The moment I think I am this limited body-mind complex, I get so much identified with this body-mind complex, the conscious principle within is constantly asserting you're eternal. And now, because of my false identification with the body-mind complex, I try to realize that eternity through the body-mind complex. The self within is constantly saying that you have no wants, you have no needs, you're always fulfilled. You exist by your own right. And now, again, because of that false identification with the body-mind complex, we find that we have various needs which has to be satisfied. Something beyond is saying you have no need. And that I want to realize with the body-mind complex, resulting in all the desires. That's how through the process of evolution, what we find, that we go on developing various samskaras because of this raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. All the factors which is favorable for this body-mind complex, I get drawn towards them. That speaks of raga. And that creates a particular set of samskaras. All those factors which is not suitable for the existence, for the sustenance of the body-mind complex, I develop fight and flight response towards it. And that is called dvesha and abhinivesha. That again creates a particular set of samskaras. So now we can say that our personality is like a wheel, where ego is the hub, which is connected with innumerable spikes. And each spike speaks of a particular samskara. I like this, I don't like that, I'm afraid of that. All this constitutes my personality. And why ego is the disease? Because of this ego this entire mesh, this network has been created. A body-mind complex with all these likes and dislikes, it has been created. And my ease has gone, so that's why I'm diseased. Then what's the way out? So ego is a disease, but it contains its own cure. That's the wonderful thing. That by default, the ego which I have got, which speaks of my limited individuality, now I can design a particular mental module through the process of Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. I hear from the scriptures that I am the self, I am beyond this body-mind complex, I am beyond all the duality, and that when I realize, I find this Atman becomes one with Brahman. So when hearing the words of the scripture, I am meditating on that. Very interesting. Who is meditating? The same mind which is full of samskaras. It is the same mind. When I say I am Brahman, it is not that I have realized Brahman. It is a particular mental thought vibration in my mind. And that's the capacity which we have, with which this special mental module, I can cure the disease which has been created by the ego. How? In our scriptures we have heard of Kalidasa, the special character, the Kalidasa. That Kalidas, before he became a scholar, he, as we are not going to the details of the story, that he was, everyone knew that he is a fool. How they came to know that he is a fool? He was sitting on the branch of a tree and he was cutting the same branch. No one does that. If you are sitting on the branch of a tree and cutting the same branch, that you are going to fall. Seeing that, everyone understood that Kalidas is a fool. Now this mental module, that I am Atman, I am Brahman, constantly meditating on that, Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani, constantly think of Brahman as yourself. This meditation is just like sitting on the branch of a tree and cutting it like Kalidasa. Why? That I am creating a mental module with the help of which I will be disjoining the ego from all the mental modules. In the words of Sri Ramakrishna, this is called Kata Diye Kata Tola. The same mind, that when I say I am Brahman, I have not become Brahman. It is a particular thought. But this thought has the capacity to to disjoin the ego from all the mental modules. How? Because when I am saying I am Atman, I am not the body, not the mind, not the senses, what I am doing, I am constantly hammering on that ego. That ego, how it has formed? Because of the idea, I am the body, I am the mind, I am the senses. The seeing the reflection of the self in the body-mind complex, I got disillusioned, I got illusioned, that I got delusioned. Because of that delusion, because of that illusion, I started thinking that I am the body. This I is the body, the mind, this all the functions of the senses, everything is me. Now when I am constantly meditating on the self, what I am doing, the same mind I am using to hammer on the ego, to constantly go on axing the ego. But with ego, all the other mental modules are joined. So if through this process I can get rid of the ego, then what happens at last? All the mental modules collapses all at once, at a time. It doesn't need that to get rid of those samskaras one by one. All at a time collapses because they are all connected to the ego. Not only that, this new mental model which I have designed through meditation, that also is connected with the ego at present. That also gets cut off, taking you to the realization. All the mental models fall off. So this is what called Kata Diye Kata Tula. That a thorn has pierced me. I take another thorn from the same bush and use it to pluck out the thorn which has pierced me. And once I have plucked out, Both the thorns are of no use. I throw both of them. The mental module with which I am disjoining all the mental modules is also a mental module. This is the second thorn with which I am getting rid of all the thorns. Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya in some other context gives a very nice example. He says it is just like purifying the water with the help of camphor. In the olden days, the water used to be purified with a camphor. If you put camphor in the water, you will find the water is getting clear. And at last when the water gets purified, you will find the camphor also is not visible. It also has to evaporated. It's no more there. So the camphor is just like the second mental module. This Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Contemplating on that Brahma Tattvamasi. This is the second mental module with the help of which I am getting rid of all the mental modules. And when it is done, at last the camphor is gone. The second mental module has also gone. That's what Buddhas used to say very nicely, that no one carries the raft on his shoulder once they have crossed the river. Once you have crossed the river, what's the use of that? So this mental model is also of no use once you have realized. That's what they say. Sattva takes you to the realization, but it cannot go there. So all these mental modules which you have designed through your spiritual practice speaks of this second thorn by which you are getting rid of the first thorn. So now you will understand that why we say ego is a disease, but it contains its own cure. As a human being, we can design that by default we have so many samskaras, but through sadhana we can design a new mental module which can get rid of all the mental modules. And from 254 to 263, these are the verses with the help of which Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya is trying to help us to make this process of meditation intense by using the Tatastha Lakshana. That when you are saying that you are Brahman, what that Brahman is, that cannot be directly defined, but with the help of what I perceive and negating that by saying that it is not this, it is not this, it is something beyond, I can get a glimpse of it, I can get an idea of it, and that idea, this ideation becomes the factor to knock out my ego, to axe out my ego, to take me to beyond the so-called this mental texture. The mind collapses, taking me to that ultimate realization. That's the beauty of Vedanta. In the Western philosophy, we find this famous quotation of Descartes, that I think, therefore I am. They identify their existence with a thought. And in Vedanta, in yoga, the idea is that when you stop thinking, then you know who you are. It is not that I think, therefore I am. When the thought stops, then the real I is realized. You become one with that. And for that process, these all verses has been described by Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya. So in the last class, from the 254 to the 257, these 4 verses we studied. Now we will continue. We'll find it is the same, in the same theme. Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya will continue till the 263rd verse. So we will start from 258th verse and try to just complete this section, that 263rd verse, to understand that what Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya is saying, to point the idea, to point to the idea of Brahman, so that our meditation on Brahman can become more and more intense, helping us effectively to at last get rid of the ego and get established in our real self, which is one with the Brahman, one with Atman. The Atman is one with Brahman. So now let's proceed to the 258th verse. So what it is saying? Janma vriddhi parinati apakshaya vyadhi nashana vihinam avyayam vishwa srishti avavighata karanam brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. As I told, the last phrase is the same. Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. That thou art that Brahman, meditate on this in your mind. So that's the common thing. But that Brahman, what it is? that which is free from janma, vriddhi, parinati, apakshaya, vyadhi, nashana. It speaks of that shada vikara, this janma. Janma speaks of birth, vriddhi, growth, parinati, transformation, apakshaya, decay, vyadhi, disease, nashan, death. Jayate, asti, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, nasti. So this shada vikara, Brahman is beyond that. He is in the eternal present. There is no transformation. So that's the Brahman. See, here, what can you define Brahman? No. You're using the tatastha lakshana. That all these 6 transformations I see in my body. So with the help of this is the tata. This is something beyond that. This body becomes the indicator. All these transformations which I see in the body, the self doesn't have that. The real Atman. That is beyond that. So that's how, through Tatastha Lakshana, Shankaracharya, Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya is defining the self, that it is beyond this Shadavikara. And then, which is the cause of projection, maintenance and dissolution. Vishwasrishti avavighata karanam. So this creation, preservation and the dissolution, all this is beyond that he is beyond this creation, sustenance and dissolution. He is indestructible. He is avyaya. Avyaya means indestructible. In this world we see everything at one point of time or other will be destroyed. But the self is beyond that. He is eternal, indestructible. And so such is the Brahman. See, for defining Brahman, you cannot define. So you're using all the things which are perceptible and then you negate them to have an idea of that Brahman. So that's how you are constantly hammering on the ego. So all this has been taken from the Shruti. It is not that Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya is saying from his idea from his fertile brain. Constantly he will find he's again and again resorting to the Vedas. That if you go to the Vedas, if you go back to the Vedas, our core scripture, these are the ideas there. This idea, this Vishwasrishti avavighata, that is beyond projection, sustenance and dissolution. We find it's in the Taittiriya Upanishad, the famous mantra. We find there, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayanti abhisambhisanti, tat vijigyasasva, tat brahma. The same idea, that reality from which all things take birth. Yato va imani bhutani. This bhuta, that which takes birth, all these things came from there. Jayante, it has been born from there. That all the things which takes birth, all the beings that take birth. So that's the reality from which all this has been created, has taken birth. Yena jatani jivanti, that by which that all beings which are born continue to exist. Yat prayanti abhisamvisanti, that at last again they merge in that. Tat vijigyasasva, know that. Tat Brahman, that is the Brahman. It's in the Taittiriya Upanishad, and that's the idea which we find Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya is resorting to when he is saying Vishwasrishti avavighata karanam, that is beyond this creation, sustenance, preservation. That's the Brahman. Meditate on that. So through all these ideas, he is intensifying the process of meditation by asserting the self which is beyond this body-mind complex. So the next to 59th verse, what it is saying? Asta bhedam anapasta lakshanam nistaranga jalarashi nishchalam nitya muktam avibhakta murti yat brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. Asta bhedam. Asta, that sets. The sun rises, the sun sets. Setting of the sun is asta. Surya is astamita. It is going ahead, it is setting. So it's asta in Sanskrit means to set, to as if disappear. And bheda means is something negation of that. Anything bheda means destruction of that. So the self is something in which there is no asta. It doesn't get set. As that's what is the meaning of the word asta bheda. So that which is free from any sorts of differentiation, decay, that's asta bhedam, anapasta lakshanam. So this whose essence is never non-existent. This apasta means is non-existence. By using the prefix an, it means it's denying that it is never non-existent. Anapasta lakshanam. So this is lakshana, this indicator that in this world everything gets decayed, everything gets destroyed. It is something which never gets non-existent. So from where Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is saying this? Again, in the Kena Upanishad. They say in our life, constantly everything is changing. But what is not changing? Prativodha viditam. That's the term in Kena Upanishad. Prativodha. You'll find these words are so similar to all the Indian language. Bodha. Bodha we understand. Bodha means the thought, that feeling, the emotions, everything is bodha. What we are aware of. That awareness is changing constantly. Now I am having certain thought, the next moment the thought changes. Now I am angry, now I am happy, the feelings changes. But beyond that, the pratibodha, beyond every thought, feeling, the idea that I, is that changing? No. And that I is nothing but the reflection of the self. So, that never gets asta, it never gets set, it is always there. So that's what is the idea. This from the Prativodha Viditam in Kena Upanishad we get the idea of that what is meant by asta bhedam anapasta lakshanam. It is never non-existence, it never sets, it's always there. Just like if the sun sets, but this is a sun, the Brahman is a sun which never sets. So because it is existent behind all our each and every feeling, thought, in every state, whether we are awake, whether we are dreaming, or whether in deep sleep. Behind every state, that I is always there as the witness, and that I again is nothing but the reflection of the Brahman. So it never gets set, it never sets, it is always there, ever existent. Nitya muktam, that there is no bondage for it. That we think that through spiritual practice we have to get liberated. But is there any bondage of the self that we are speaking of liberation? No. It is just an ignorance. We have to get rid of the ignorance. So as in our scriptures they say that it is a forgetfulness. Nothing else. It is always with us. Suppose a lady is wearing a necklace, and because she is busy with her work, it gets covered with the cloth she is wearing, and then suddenly she feels the necklace has lost, is not there, and she is in frantic search of that necklace. And then someone points, you are searching the necklace, it is there, it is just around your neck, and she removes the cloth which gets covered, and she finds, oh, it was there, it was never lost, it was always there. So similarly, the self, with what you say, that ever fulfilled, eternal, beyond all wants, it is always there. It is because of ignorance we think that we are in bondage. In this life, what creates a sense of bondage? All our limitations, all our wants and feelings. I want this, I want that. The moment I get it, I think, oh, so these limitations I got rid of. I got the thing I want and I am happy. But that happiness, how it comes? When I am wanting something, my mind is disturbed. When I get it, for the time being there is a let go. The mind is calm. It is not the external thing which has given me happiness. It is the self which is Ananda Swarupa. That Ananda now percolates. All the waves of the mind was filtering that Ananda, was covering that Ananda. The moment that the mind gets calm, that Ananda percolates. So it is not the desire, the fulfillment of desire that gives us happiness. It is not the fulfillment of desire from which we feel a sense of liberation. No. It is actually the desirelessness which enables the Ananda Swarupa to permeate. So that's why it is always there. It's not as such in bondage. It is just because of ignorance that creates as if a covering which actually is not there. It is just the ignorance because of which we feel that we are bound, but we are never bound. So we are Nitya Mukta. It is ever free. Avibhakta Murti. Nothing can divide it. It is something which is which cannot be divided. Avibhakta. Because anything which is has no. In English, the word we use nothing. Nothing means shunya, we say. But there is another way of saying what is the meaning of nothing? No thing. It is not something matter. No thing. So no thing doesn't mean shunya. No thing means something. That no thing. So if all the things are removed, what removes? The consciousness alone. That consciousness which is appearing as this world of name and form. That thing cannot be attributed to that ultimate reality. It is beyond all the so-called the matter. Unless anything is a matter, you cannot divide it. It is not matter. There is no question of parts. So it is something which is avibhakta. So as Sri Ramakrishna used to give that nice example, the self is like that ocean. It is our ego is just like the pot. You immerse a pot in the ocean, the same ocean water enters into the pot, and now I say it is pot water. How? What is that? How it has become pot water? It is the same ocean water. Because the boundary of the pot now demarcates the ocean from the water in the pot. But it is the same water. So ego is the ignorance. Remove that, you will find it is indivisible, it is one. That you are one with that absolute. And that's the idea of avibhakta. It can never be divided. It is because of ignorance we feel that we are matter, and that creates the question of division, parts. So it is beyond that all sorts of vibhakti. So now we'll find that all the perceptions which we are having, by using the same perceptions, he is pointing to the self, to the tatastha lakshana, something which is beyond that. And that helps us in meditating. Meditate on that. Go on negating all your perceptions to get rid of the ego, so that at last you can hammer it out. And then all the mental modules collapses, taking you to that ultimate realization which is beyond the mind. Avang manasa gocharam. It is beyond your speech, beyond your mind. Kyamun ghi na jamun ghi. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that something can be experienced but cannot be expressed. The language fails. So this experienced, that ghee, when you taste the clarified butter, you know its taste. But can you explain it? No. So Sri Ramakrishna is using, these are called allegory. Then Atman is the ghee? No, it is not the ghee. Just the way that the taste of ghee cannot be explained, though it can be experienced. Similarly, the ultimate reality, when I say it is beyond all perception, that doesn't mean that it is shunya. It is something that is experienceable, but not expression. You cannot express it. You cannot explain it. It's not explainable, but it is experienceable. Just the way, if you ask a mother, what is the motherly love? She says, oh, it is something wonderful. But can she explain? No. She can at the most say, you be the mother, and then you realize what motherly love is. So that's the idea which we find again and again Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is resorting to. So the next, the 260th verse, what it is saying, Ekam eva sat aneka karanam karanantara nirasi akaranam karya karana vilakshanam swayam brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. Ekam eva sat aneka. Though it is one, because of ignorance, it is appearing as many. That example which we give again and again, that mind is like the prism, The white light falls on the prism to break into the spectrum of 7 colors. So these are all upama. With the help of this, we try to understand what it is. That one is appearing as many. That though it is one ekam, sat aneka karanam. It is the cause of all this variety which I see in this world. Prapancha. All this in this prapancha, in this world of 5 senses. So many varieties of name and form we see. But its origin is that eka. From that one, though it is one, it is appearing as many. Karanantara nirasi akaranam. So, it refutes all other causes, but is itself without cause. That in this world, we see that there is a relation of cause and effect, everything. That this is the cause of this. The entire theory of karma is nothing but cause and effect. That for such and such action, this is for good actions, you get the good result. For evil actions, you get the evil result. But Brahman is beyond that. But again and again that we give the same examples. That someone is reading the scriptures in the sunlight and someone is counterfeiting the coin. Certain karma they are doing. For that, of course, they enjoy certain results. But is anyway the sun is getting affected? No. So, but because of the sun, the reading of the Bhagavati is possible. Because of the sun, counterfeiting of the coin is possible. But is the sun getting affected? No. So sun is beyond the cause and effect. But because of it, all the cause and effect we see in the world is possible. So that's what is saying Karya Karana Vilakshana. Swayam, and Swayam means it is ever independent. Means there is no, in any way, never any bondage for it. So that's Swayam. It always exists by its own right. There is no cause for it. So such is the Brahman. In this world, anything we see, it has a cause. It's the effect of something. Again, and this effect itself will become the cause of something. But the Brahman, the ultimate reality, is beyond that cause and effect. So again, Bhagavad Shankaracharya is using that Tatastha Lakshana to indicate that Brahman. So that's the Brahman, which is yourself, Bhavaya, and meditate on that Brahman in the core of your being, in your mind, in your heart. Meditate on that. So this is the process. This is dhyasana. Constantly, by this meditation, you are hammering on this limited idea of individuality. And that's what at last enables you to get rid of the ego. And once the ego is gone, that, as we say, that's all the samskaras collapses at a time. It's not that one by one it collapses, all at a time, rendering you that ultimate freedom from this so-called illusion of this world and this body and this world. It helps to get rid of this illusion. So that's what Bhagavad Shankaracharya is saying here. So in the next verse, the 261st verse, what it is saying? Nirvikalpam analpam aksharam yat kshara akshara vilakshanam param nityam avyaya sukham niranjanam brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. So that which is free from all duality, nirvikalpam. There is no duality in it. Free from all duality, analpam, which cannot be limited in time and space. It is infinite and indestructible. Aksharam is indestructible. That which cannot, which is not alpa, which is brihat. That's why the word Brahma means brihat. So it is analpam, aksharam, means that which cannot be in any way destroyed, indestructible. Kshara akshara vilakshanam. So distinct from this universe and something which is beyond this universe. What is very simply we say beyond the universe and Maya. Because of Maya, what has happened? That ego has came. That sense that I am this limited body-mind complex. I am the enjoyer. Whatever is happening, whether I am enjoying something or suffering. So behind all these perceptions, that I is something like ever existent. It is Akshara. And everything else, whatever I am experiencing, is Akshara. So this universe is a constant flow and I am perceiving it. But this I which is perceiving is already limited by the ego. So this ego as well as this world, the perceiver and the perceived, Brahman is beyond both of them. He is neither the perceiver not the perceived. He is Shara, Akshara, Vilakshanam. He is beyond that. And he is the supreme eternal, Param. Nothing is beyond that. Param means supreme. Means nothing can define it. Everything can be defined because of that. But nothing can define it. So it is something fundamental. That's what is meant. Param means fundamental. That when I say the table has an area means what? Length into breadth. Now what is length? The distance between the 2 points. What is this distance? Now you say it is a fundamental thing. This you have to take as a fundamental quantity to describe other things. You cannot define that. So similarly, the self is the ultimate, fundamental, with the help of which everything can be defined, it can be explained. But that cannot be explained with the help of something else. So that's what is meant by the word that this Kshara, Akshara, Vilakshanam, Param. This Param means that, this ultimate, fundamental principle, supreme, with the help of which everything else can be explained. And Nityam Avyaya Sukham. It is the eternal principle. That's now we were saying, Avyaya Sukham. In our life we find that there is never uninterrupted happiness. We have desires, wants, and when it is fulfilled, we are happy for just a time being, and again the happiness is gone. So, this is our experience. But here Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is saying that it is a uninterrupted bliss. Why we are not experiencing it? It is the desires which is obscuring our bliss. It is always there. When the desire is fulfilled, for the time being, the mind is calm. There is no desire. And the bliss percolates through the body-mind complex. And when again a new desire arises, again it is covered. So if I can be desireless, that's why in the Upanishads, again and again, the word dhira has been used to explain a wise man. A wise man is a dhira, the calm one, who never gets agitated, perturbed by the happenings of the life. It never reacts. That even in the modern psychology they say that suffering is not because of what is happening in your life. Suffering is because the way you react to it. It is the reactions which cause the suffering. So if you are a dhira, you are not reacting, then the mind is always calm and there is nothing to obstruct this avyaya sukha, nityam avyaya sukham, that is always finding expression through your life, and that is Brahman. Meditate on that. So you'll find again and again, he is negating all the experiences which we are having in this life, in this sunset world, to understand what Brahman is, and that's what on which we have to meditate, to go beyond this realm of bondage. And then in the 262nd verse, what he's saying, Yat vibhati sat anekadha brahmat nama rupa guna vikriyatmana hemavat swayam avikriyam sada brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. So that reality which though one appears variously owing to delusion, yat vibhati sat anekadha brahmat. That in the last verse also it was mentioned that though he is one, he appears as many. Here he is specifying, yes, he is appearing as many because of Brahma, because of delusion. Anekadha brahmat. And because of the delusion, he takes various names and forms. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Vikriyatmana. He takes names and forms, attributes and changes. That that all the attributes, the name and form, that when I am having a pot, it has a particular shape, and I give it a particular name, and it is used for a particular purpose. So, Nama Rupa Artha Kriya Karitva. So, all these are the thing which gives the variety. But basically, it is the same clay by which all those various utensils are made. So, that will be spoken of, that all these Nama Rupa Guna Vikriyatmana, these variations, how it come? Just because of them only, that variation is something which is perceptible. You take out this Nama Rupa, Artha Kriya Karitva, then it is the same essence. In essence, it is the same substance alone. That's being indicated by Hemavat Swayam Avikriyam. Just like gold, by which various ornaments are made. Everything is a modification of the same gold. That gives them the name, form and shape. But in essence, it is the gold and gold alone. So with the help of that example, Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is explaining that how that Nama, Rupa, Guna, Vikriya, all this happens. In essence, it is the same thing, which is appearing as many. And because that all in this variety, the only thing which gives the variety is the name and the form and the utility. If take them out, in essence, it is the same thing, same substance alone. So just like all the ornaments of gold, it is the same substance. It is the gold and gold alone. So that's again Brahman, the essence behind the entire existence. That's yourself. Meditate on that. And know it to be the core of your being. Whether your Atman is one with that. And then in the 263rd verse, what it is saying, this section ends with that. Yat chakasti na aparang parat parang pratyak ekarasam atma lakshanam satya chit sukham anantang avyayang brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. Yat chakasti parat param na aparang. So this na aparang means that beyond which there is nothing. These two words in Sanskrit, para, apara. Apara means lower. Para means the supreme. So when you sing na aparang, it means param. So that which is that beyond which there is nothing. That means na aparang, which shines even above the conscious enjoyer in everyone. Yat chakasti parat param. That as we told, that in our sensate experience, what is the thing which is not changing? The one who is the enjoyer. Because of ignorance, the ego has emanated, and that gives us a sense of limited individuality, which is constantly emanating a sense of I am. That I am is coming from this limited body-mind complex, which is not changing. In deep sleep, in dream, in wakeful state, in all our experiences, whether I am happy, whether I am unhappy, whether I am angry, whether I am calm, whatever may be the state, that I am is something which is parat, based on which everything is happening. The self is even beyond that, parat param. It is superior than the supreme which we experience in our sensate world. The idea of this individual self that we experience in this world, beyond that it is parat param. And then ekarasam. So it is something homogeneous. There is no, as we told, there is no parts in it. You cannot divide it. So that's why ekarasam. It is homogeneous. And it is pratyak. It cannot, that as it is all permeating, but to experience it with my senses, if I move out, I can never experience it. Why? Because the moment I am trying to see something outside, the self is getting, what you say, just like the way when you are trying to see the world with wearing a blue glass, you see everything blue. Similarly, the sense is conditioning the self the moment I am trying to see it outside. It is already getting conditioned. So, Vedanta never tries to describe what I am seeing. It actually is trying to understand how that perception is happening. That what I am perceiving, the science describes that. And Vedanta is actually questioning your perception itself, how the perception is happening. The thing which I am perceiving is the process of perception. From that, can I understand that the thing which I am seeing is real? It appears to be real. Is it real? It is questioning that. So it is questioning the perception itself. So here, that's the idea which is being indicated in this verse, that Atma Lakshanam. It is something pratyak, within. The moment it gets, it projects itself through the mind and senses, you can never find it. You have to dive within, beyond the mind and senses, then only you can find it. The pratyak, within. In Sanskrit, these two words are there, pratyak, parak. When you are moving out, that is parak. When you are diving within, is pratyak. So you have to dive within. It is Atma Lakshanam. When you can dive within, in your own self, then only it can be realized. So Atma Lakshanam. And when you can dive within, you realize it as what? At last, the only affirmation which we find, everything is negation. At last, he is saying Sat Chit Sukham. This Sat Chit Ananda. Sat Chit Sukham Anantam. So we say it is an affirmation, but actually it is also a negation. Because once you affirm, immediately you give some qualities to the self. The self which is Nirguna, Nirakara. Then the Sat Chit Ananda becomes the Guna. So it is actually, seems that for the first time Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is using attributes, but actually it is negation again. How? When you say Sat Chit Sukham Anantam, it becomes negation. Because in this life, we find Sat, which we experience. What is Sat? Existence. Is there any existence which is Ananta? No. We were born at a certain point of time. We exist for a certain point of time. As long as we exist, we go on transforming, and then we die. So that Satya is not Ananta. The Chit, the awareness that I am, does it exist after death? I don't know. So how can it be Ananta when I am not assured of the fact whether with my this limited understanding this amness continues? I don't know. So that cannot be said as Ananta. Ananda, we constantly experience that it is never something uninterrupted. Constantly, that we will find in life that real happiness is momentary. Most of the time, we are going through all the so-called suffering and struggles, and then happiness is momentary. In the words of Sri Ramakrishna, it's just like a drop of water falling in a hot cauldron. That as long as you can see the water, it immediately evaporates. Happiness is something like that. So it is so momentary. And here again, that's why when you say Sukham Anantam, it's a negation. That ultimate reality is Sat. It has no limitation. It exists beyond the three phases of time. Chit, it's that aware, and that Sat is not something matter. It is consciousness, which also is beyond the phases of time. It is that amness is the consciousness, is the ultimate reality, and it is that uninterrupted bliss is its nature. Avyayam, there is no transformation. There is no a transformation in it. Anantam, immutable. It is not immutable, it is infinite. So that's the Brahman on which you have to meditate constantly in your heart. Meditate on that, meditate on that. So all these verses, actually what it is indicating? It is indicating that through Nididhyasana, you have to create a Brahmakara Vritti, Brahma Akara Vritti in your mind. That is also a Vritti. That as we started our discussion with that Vritti means thought wave. So when I am saying I am Brahman, that also is a Vritti. But this Vritti has the capacity to negate all other Vrittis by negating the ego. And at last, this Brahmakara Vritti also is not there. It also ceases. Because when once you are established in the self, when the mind has, as such, you have transcended the mind, you have gone beyond it, then you still exist. Actually, that's the real existence. You become Swayam, you become Swastha. That word Swastha, which we use, means good health. Actually, it means one who is residing in himself, swa me sthita, the one who is sthita in himself. So you become swastha, you become swayam, and that's the state of jivan mukti, that even while living you can experience that. And that's the instruction Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is giving us, so that we can attain that, we can get established in that Brahmakara vritti, with the help of which we can go beyond all of vritti and to realize the self, which is the essence of our existence. So with this, we stop our discussion today, and we will start the next section again in the next class. So thank you all. Namaskar.